And you are live.
We still can't see you, Carrie, if you want to be seen.
I'm working on it. It's weird.
And you're live, sir. Ready to go.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Everyone get the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Any changes or corrections you'd like to make? None? I'll go ahead and approve the minutes then. And our new business, excuse me, wow. Good time for that to start. The new business tonight is a variance request. It's case BZA 2021-02, Stephanie Koukas. You can go ahead and bring her in, Sam, if you'd like.
There, she's coming in right now. And to let you all know, I do have the documents that were sent out. I have those ready to display if and when you want to see those. So just let me know.
Okay, if she needs them while she's talking, you can do that. We can see you, Stephanie. Oh, okay, now we might be able to hear you. How are you, Stephanie?
Well, how are you guys?
Good. We've got all your paperwork that you sent in, and we just want to know if you have anything you'd like to add or tell us about the project before we start discussing it.
Sure. My daughter and son-in-law will be moving back to the mountain, and I'm looking to add an additional 1,300 to 1,500 square feet to give us the space we need. And it's going to go, but it'll be built off the left side of the house, and it will stay in line with the house, all except we need extra 5 feet for the garage entrance in order for the current layout to work. And that's why I went ahead and submitted the paperwork requesting a review. The actual front porch, I guess, is grandfathered in based on the new international standards. It comes out 5 feet, but there's also an overhang which comes out another 12 inches. So if we can stay aligned with the front porch, I think it will be aesthetically pleasing, and it will also accomplish what I'm hoping to accomplish. And it shouldn't interfere with anything.
Anyone have any questions for her?
Well, I want to make a statement as far as the reason I was bringing this before you guys was I didn't have any problem with this thing lining up on the, with the front porch of the house, but it did encroach into the front setback of the 40 feet. So that's basically why I was letting this come before you guys. It's just that, like I say, I think it's okay, but I think because it was encroaching into the 40 feet that that I want to let you guys weigh in on it too. So
I guess my first question for you is there a reason you couldn't have this come in from the other street and build it on the other end of the house where it wouldn't interfere with the setbacks at all?
It's a cost factor. I'm working with a budget, within a certain budget. And since the builder who built the house put the driveway on the left side, I was trying to keep costs down and then be able to build the garage into the addition.
Okay, Doug, Bob, Carrie, do you guys have any questions?
How deep is that garage, the depth of it?
I think it's going to be 22 feet. 20 feet, excuse me. The house itself is 26 feet wide.
So this is a two-story, a room above the garage is what you're building?
I'm going to do a bonus room above it.
Okay.
Chuck, my question, this is Bob Gressinger.
Yeah.
When was the 40-foot setback date approved by the city as the standard?
I don't know that it has ever been anything other than that from when it was originally done in the ordinances, which would go with the zoning. But now, trying to remember when this property was. You see if I can see the date on the subdivision here.
Was this property always in the city?
As far as I know, now I'm not sure where some of these, some areas that may have been original and revised and things, but since I've been here, the only thing that's been added to the town is Fox Run and Wind Tree.
The reason for my questions on this is if it was within zoning at the time, which it obviously can't be if you don't have a date other than 1976 or something like that. The zoning was 40 feet at that time. Was there a variance that allowed this to happen?
Well, with the plat that I've got, or that I think I sent it to you guys too, is that the house that's on the farther end of Bee Branch off of Timberlinks was already there, and then they subdivided this corner lot, and trying to see if I can see the dates. This is showing, looks like 1991 when the subdivision was done, but there's no setbacks on the subdivision, but there is a power line and utility easement that's on the Timberlinks part of the property.
Okay.
On the plat.
Let me ask a couple more questions to this, and then I'll be silent about it. My point on this is we have to assume that this property was developed correctly and plotted correctly. So I would think that if the front setback was never different than what it is presently, that they must have had a variance for this. Do we keep records of variances like that?
If there is, it's probably in a box somewhere. But being that old, I don't know that, I've tried to keep up with anything I've done since I've been here, but older stuff sometimes is hard to find.
The only thing I was asking that is if they had one variance for 5 feet, which I would assume they probably did, then it's still in effect.
That's a good point.
Maybe so, but I don't know of any documents that I can put my
My
hands on.
questions are done.
Sure.
Stephanie, just let me make sure I know what I'm looking at. You got the garage, the hallway, the steps. Is the bonus room the master bedroom also? Is that an additional?
No, the master bedroom is in line with the house, and it'll be off to the left of the garage.
Okay, so
and
that's
still
why,
be 15 feet from the property line, the neighborhood property line.
that's why you need the hallway going over there.
Right. So we're looking at a 26 by 44 addition on the left side, inclusive of the garage, except for the additional 5 feet forward that we need for the entrance to the garage.
Okay. Chanel, do you want to come on and summarize the report you made? Chanel works for Southeastern Tennessee Development District. Is that correct?
Okay.
That's
Did I
it.
get that right?
That's pretty good, yeah. It's a mouthful.
So she advises us. So if you could give us a summation of your report, Chanel.
Sure. Coming from a legal perspective and looking at Tennessee code, if there's no undue hardship, I can't support a recommendation. However, Robert brings up a good point, and that is that I think it's even under 5 feet. I think it's 3.11 feet of a difference that's just an estimate from the measurements that we took on the property viewer. It doesn't exhibit any extraordinary or exceptional situation or condition that would warrant a zoning variance, but it is something to note that it wouldn't be built beyond what's already existing. And I think Robert's point that if there was a variance, then it would still be in effect. So that is definitely something to consider. But as far as I stand, my recommendation, I can't say yes or no, but my recommendation is that it doesn't warrant a variance because these kinds of additions and build-ons and structures are intended to be phased out with this setback. And this doesn't support phasing that out. So I want you to build your garage. I want you to have an addition, and I think it would be aesthetically pleasing. So I guess with that noted, I'll leave it to the Board of Zoning Appeals to make their choice.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that input. Any more questions for her?
Dave, is it 3 feet or 5 feet in the front setback we're talking about?
Well, she's asking for 5, but Chanel says they measure and it's 3.1 feet.
It's an estimate. It's an estimate. I mean, unless you get out there with measuring tape and go. You did? It is 5 feet?
Yeah, it's 5, and then there's another 12-inch overhang
Okay.
from the roof.
I guess my measuring tools were in your favor.
What's
And
the garage from being pushed back a little bit into the house? I see you got a stairwell back there.
Yeah. There's a hallway and a stairwell inside the house, or the addition, proposed addition.
Could that be reduced to, let's just say a couple feet? Or is that possible?
I think code is at least 3.5 feet wide for stairwell. Chuck, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the minimum on the stairs is 3 feet.
Dave, Bob, I got a question.
Okay.
The Board of Zoning Appeal, I think, was surprised one time of what actually went in when we approved something. Is this a multi-floor facility, or is this like a floor and a half? Is there a room above the garage?
There's going to be a bonus room above the garage, but the roof line will remain as it is. We will have gables. We'll have gables out over the garage extension area.
So it will look similar to the other end.
Correct.
That's my.
There's going to be a living area above the garage out 3 or 4, 5 feet.
I
Hey,
think
Dave,
it
Yes.
might be up to 400 square feet, but I don't think it'll be that big.
I'm always torn here in instances like this because I agree with Chanel. There's no real hardship here. There's not a weird lot. There's not a stream to avoid. And we value setbacks, especially front setbacks, for aesthetic reasons, neighborhood consistency. But I want this lady to have her addition too. So I
have one more question for Chuck. What is the where does her lot end compared to the street?
It's
The drawing we got makes it look like it's several feet back.
it probably is. We never did get a exact thing on it, but we do know it's it's kind of like most of these others. I mean, it's just your paving is not as wide as your right of way. But and there's no sidewalks or anything in this neighborhood. So we had done our best to find the pins and see how far it was, and I don't recall how much, but how much?
We did find them, and when you're standing right in the area where on the driveway to the front of the house, if you're where I went ahead and staked it and lined it off so I could make sure we were right on the money. When we measured it, it's 40 feet to the flat front of the house.
Pavement.
The variance. I'm sorry, not the variance. The curb, and then you have your.
And I wanted to make another statement too on this, that as far as trying to back the house, this addition up, and I think I sent you guys the drawings for the septic area, and there's no way that she can back it up any farther than just where the back of the house is now, without getting into that septic field and septic tank that's there now.
Let me ask a question.
Go ahead.
She put some a string out there between 2 stakes. Is that approximating the property line?
You asking me?
Yes.
Yes. Is that line is that string approximating the property line?
Yes.
And I was just out there. It's got to be 8 or 10 feet from the asphalt. So the asphalt is not nearly where the property line is.
Right.
I have another question, Chuck. She's putting on a bonus room and another bedroom and a bathroom and a laundry. Is she going to have to expand her septic field?
Not in the plan that she has, because groundwater protection based their sizing and all on the number of bedrooms. And in her renovation, she would be just changing the bedrooms and not adding a bedroom. But now if she's going to add a bedroom, it would affect the septic, as far as probably having to be enlarged. But being that she's just switching rooms around and can keeping the 3 bedrooms, it's still in line with what groundwater protection has.
Okay. I had hopes maybe the septic field would be moved, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's definitely not much room back there where it is. So are you guys ready to talk about the question?
There's just, it's a much more, it's a different project when it's a garage only coming out that far, but now you put a bonus room above that coming out the same distance. That's more imposing from an aesthetic standpoint.
True.
Your footprint's the same.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
I know, but you got more.
but you got the front porch and the additional.
It's a much more imposing when you come out with the height of the garage plus or even above that. That changes the dynamics.
The roof line stays
I
the
wouldn't
same.
calculate that in, but and Bob's got a about the if there was ever a variance granted, but for me, coming out with a garage is one thing. Coming out with a garage at that distance into the front setback, 4 or 5 feet, with that structure above it, that's a different thing.
Any more questions for Stephanie? Before I silence her for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. And we're going to discuss it, and there are only 4 members here tonight, so you need 3 members to vote for approval.
Okay.
So Sam, if you want to take her away, we'll go ahead and discuss.
Thank you, Stephanie. Wish you the best.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Does anybody have a motion they want to make?
Well, what about Bob's previous
Query?
variance thing?
Well, if it can't be found, it's probably, I don't know if you can find any paperwork or not. I know how some things were, might have been run. How old was that house? Was it 92 or 80?
97.
87.
No, 1997 it was built.
Oh, there was good 97. There was good BZA going on back into the before 2000.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. I remember some of it.
I don't know what the building inspector did though.
I don't know. I can't say, but going back into the before 2000, we had a fellow that was chair of the BZA. He was attorney by trade, and he was there for several years.
Hey,
If,
anyway,
if I could real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just, I actually grew up down the street from that property, and I believe it was built more towards the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
Because I just, if that makes any difference for what you're discussing.
okay.
I'm not sure. I think I trust Chanel's measurements more than the homeowner, but I'm not sure.
I looked on the deed record, not the deed record, but in Hamilton County property records, and found that the estimated build of the house, construction of the house is 1997. But those sometimes are not correct. So
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, I'm pulling up the GIS, the assessor's site right now.
perfect.
the property is classified as residential with a ranch style structure on this card, built about 1992 with 1,352 square feet. So, and
But it doesn't say for sure. Can we look back at anything else and verify when it was built other than this?
This says about 1992, and the subdivision on this was done. Let me get back to my stuff here. That subdivision was done in 91. So if they built the house in 92, that would have been right after the subdivision.
Going with the style of the house and Sam's memory, that sounds about right to me. So it should have conformed to the setbacks at the time.
Something else to consider is if there was a variance, if there was a setback at the time, 40-foot setback at the time, and there was a variance issued for this extra 5 feet, it was probably because of the septic in the back that was the only viable place for it to be placed.
Well, they have a large side yard. I think they could have put it over there if they'd wanted to.
That's true, yeah.
But you're right, they may have moved it out just for that reason.
But we don't consider septic tanks a hardship, do we?
Well, it's something that most of the homes have, so it's not unique to that property.
I hate to be like wavering and indecisive. I hate myself when I'm like this, but she doesn't really have a hardship, and we like to preserve our setbacks. On the other hand, she's asking for 5 feet so she can build this addition. So I may have to defer to my fellow board members here. What do y'all think? I mean, 5 feet becomes 6 feet, becomes 10 feet. It sets a difficult precedent sometimes.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
This is Bob. I make a motion that we approve the 5-foot thing. Do I have a second?
I was tempted to go 3.1 feet, but
You could amend it.
well, I guess you could do 5, and as long as the garage portion doesn't exceed the existing porch roof line.
If you want to write
I would go with it, Bob, with the 5 on the garage only, but it's going to be more imposing. It's going to go up high now. It's going to come out. It's going to be more noticeable, and that's where I'm hung up. But I hear Carrie, I am really torn on this. I really am, and it looks like from the drawing here, which we don't have any specifics on dimensions. There's none in this, and we don't know how deep the garage is. It looks like that hallway back there could be reduced at least a foot or a foot and a half, or maybe 2 feet, and that would grant her the ability to just have a variance for just, let's say, a foot or a foot and a half, and the front porch would still stick out farther.
Chuck, is there legal?
We don't know how deep the garage is. That's important, and we don't know anything here. All we have is just this schematic. It has no dimensions, and so it's kind of a shot in the dark on what to make of that. There's different depths of garages, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I think she said 22 feet. Is that what I remember?
I mean, let me ask you guys something. We don't usually advise people on an alternative, but couldn't she move it to the side or reduce a room or something?
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, y'all. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, I asked her about moving it to the other end. She said it was a financial constraint, but of course we're not supposed to consider money
Yeah.
to do these, but it's understandable. Because at first I thought she'd want the master at that end, since that's where the living room and the kitchen and all that stuff is, or the garage as well. Well, Ashley, we talked to the homeowner, and your microphone's still muted, but we talked to the homeowner, and she's asking for 5. Chanel said she thought the measurement was 3.1 inches, but So we're just, Bob has made a motion to do a 5-foot setback or a variance. So
Wait, repeat what you just said about the 3.1 inches.
3.1 feet.
Oh, 3.1 feet.
Chanel, yeah, from SETDD said that her measurement showed the porch was about 3.1 feet from the 40-foot setback, or into the 40-foot setback.
Well, have we typically in the past granted something when the porch has already extended out into the setback? What have we done?
We did one, but he was having a bunch of drainage issues and his house was damaged from water. So I think that
was where he wanted to just slide the porch over, though. It wasn't like an actual. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that's right, Ash. I remember that case.
Say that again.
I was just saying, telling Ashley, I remember that case. I recall that case that she's talking about.
Yeah, and I agree with Doug that, yeah, she is going to have everything jammed up on one end of the lot, but that's, I guess, her choice. You know, I think it would look better at the other end, but if it doesn't work for her, it doesn't work for her.
Hey, does the upstairs room, would that still be within the setbacks? There's an upstairs room, right? Right, and Doug was talking about that.
Yeah, the roof and everything would have to stay within whatever setbacks are, or a variance if we grant one.
She mentioned the roof line wouldn't change.
Right.
Say that again, because are you saying that the upstairs bonus room would not come out the full distance of the garage?
That's correct. If you are unclear on it, maybe you can verify with her, but that's what I heard. If anybody else heard the same thing.
Well, I guess I just didn't understand. That was not clear.
Yeah, she said nothing would extend further than the current roof line and porch.
Let me ask you, fellow board members, do y'all believe that a hardship is a criteria that should be considered every single time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob, did you have a question?
Can't hear you, Bob. Unmute, Bob.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I wanted to clarify for Doug. I'm pretty sure I understand what this lady's talking about. If you look at that house, there's a gable on the right end. That's where the porch is. The garage would have a gable that looks just like it on the other end. And there would be a distance of, I don't know, 10, 20 feet in between. But the gable would go perpendicular to the present roof, but it would be the same as the way it looks on the other end. That is presently the porch. So while it may be somewhat imposing, I don't think it's going to be a 2-story house there. You're going to have a gabled bedroom up there. I could be wrong about that. That's my understanding. So
she said a bonus room, and the bedroom addition is what's on the far end there. And then they were going to rearrange other rooms to make one of the bedrooms bigger and keep the 3 bedrooms. Because see, if they did a bedroom upstairs, that would change the septic.
So you're saying, Chuck, that the bonus room above the garage would not come out as far as
The only way it would extend past the footprint that you're that you're looking at is if they were to cantilever it, and most folks don't do that anyway. And I don't think that's any intention there, because that's a lot more money and everything to cantilever something like that. So I would say it's just going to go straight up above the footprint there, as that's what most people do when they build. So, and like I say, the only way you're going to make that any further is if you did cantilever, and that's never even been mentioned.
No, I don't think so. Well, there's a motion on the table to grant a 5-foot variance only where the garage footprint is. Does anyone have a second? Yeah. Do we have a different motion? Should we let that one die due to no second, Bob?
I have no input. That's the motion I made. I'll change it to 3.1 if you want, but that's all I'll do. Did we lose Ashley and everybody else?
She's still there walking around.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I had to let the dog in. He was crying at the door. But so this one is hard for me because I don't necessarily know that there's like a true hardship, but the porch is already in that whole area, right? I mean, it's not going beyond that porch.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
So I struggle with it.
Me too.
Me three.
Hey, I drove by there, but I can't recall. Is it a substantial porch or is it just a stoop? If it's a substantial porch, then maybe it's not so god awful for everything to line up. But if it's a little stoop, I think that's like.
No, it's the top of the roof comes out
Oh,
at that angle to cover the porch. So I don't think it would look inappropriate to have the second gable up there,
okay.
but it would be imposing. So
It's a porch that is at least 20 feet wide.
yeah.
Probably.
The
Yeah.
porch is.
Yeah, in that roof section.
Okay.
Well, Chanel, do you think they can do what they need to if they have a 3.1 foot variance?
I'm not a contractor.
That's all on you. No, it's not. No, it's not.
I think that I think if she has a garage and this 5 feet it could be critical for her to park her car or her vehicle in the garage. That maybe there's a reason that the garage is 22 feet deep. I'm right with you guys. This is a tough one because there is no undue hardship here. Just shave off 5 feet from the garage. Call it a storage room. At the same time, it's not going beyond what's already existing. So I'm so glad I'm not in your shoes.
It looks like that you could take off a little bit of the garage, a little bit of that hallway behind it, and you'd about be there. You would just about be there. Everybody, you might need a foot.
Okay, we have an amended motion by Bob of granting a 3.1 foot variance. Do we have a second for that?
Is that doable? Did we all agree that was doable for her? Chanel, did you say that she could probably make it?
No, I didn't say anything about her shaving off a couple of feet from the garage. I said that the measurements that I took from the internet and my mouse, drawing a line, showed this, and she said that she took physical measurements with a yardstick and measuring tape that showed 5 feet. So she said she wishes it were the case, but her measurements were 5 feet. Bob, sorry.
I have let me amend my thing so that this garage will extend no farther than the front porch. That'll be the variance to the same length as the front porch.
Okay, and do we have a second? That's it's no distance, just the porch measurement.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Okay, my reason for saying all this is I was by there today. 2 houses down from this thing is just a really sad property. These people on this corner have made a very nice property in that neighborhood. I think it's a real addition to the neighborhood. As best I understand the way this will be done, it will look very nice from the road. It will be very symmetric. And that is why I'm going to vote yes on it.
I still think I'd be more comfortable with the distance. So like 5 feet, but not to, or, whatever distance, but not to exceed the roof line, just so there's a hard number they can't exceed.
Why don't we say that, Dave? 5 feet or not beyond the front porch. Can we stipulate like that?
It would have to be 5 feet and not beyond, though.
Yeah, that's what I said, I think.
Not or, but and.
I'm gonna probably decline on the basis that we don't really, that garage could be not as deep, and that hallway behind it another foot could be off that for sure. And so then you're getting down to a variance of maybe a foot. And so that's where I am. But I respect your all's decision. I really do. It's a tough one. This is really a tough one. But we don't have any good numbers here. I don't know if 22 feet is a standard garage depth. I thought it was more like 18 feet. And I guess it depends on what people want in that garage. People want different things. So that's where I am.
The longer the trucks are getting, the bigger the garages are getting.
Well, okay.
Okay.
I hear you, but
Is there a minimum legal width?
cars are getting smaller too. Cars are getting a lot smaller. They talk about trucks. I don't know if you know. I mean, most cars are getting smaller. They're going to get a whole lot smaller soon. Even trucks are going to be smaller.
Chuck, I have a question about the hallway. Is there a minimum legal width for a hallway to connect parts of the house like that? Just for fire?
I know it's not going to be any more than or any less than 3 feet. It might be a little more than that, but I know the stairwell is going to have to be at least a 3 foot width.
All right.
Hey,
Charlie.
Hey guys, I just wanted to ask Chuck a question. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with your deliberations, but I was just looking at pictures of the property, and I was just curious if Chuck are they going to have a side setback problem? The addition looks big. I'm just curious if you've looked into that, Chuck.
I had been out there when she originally was trying to set this up and walked it with her. And we, at the time I was there, we found the back corner pin and we were still looking for the front, but the back corner pin, we were pretty sure, with that being there where we were going to be, and it's only got to be 15 feet off of that. And that actually was going to be more room left over.
Okay. I was just looking at pictures of, or the drawing of her addition and then Google Maps. So it's hard to obviously judge, but it just looked like it was a pretty large addition and not a lot of room, but you can't really tell.
If you look at the GIS, let me see if I've got that in front of me here. On the GIS, where her driveway is now is where the garage basically will wind up. And then it only comes down, a little bit past where the driveway is.
Okay.
So you're kind of lining the driveway up where the driveway was just going into the garage.
She said earlier it'd be 15 feet from the side.
Yeah, she did. So
Okay.
Doug, you think that she can borrow that 5 feet from her garage?
I'm not sure she can borrow the 5 feet. I think it's doable, yes, but more likely she borrow 3 or 4 feet from the garage, get it down to say, what did she say, 22 feet? Do you all recall?
I think she
22
said.
feet.
Yeah. And
I guess-
well, 20, if you got that 18, that would be, you got a garage there. And I hear what Chuck's saying, the size of trucks. Well, I don't know if she has a truck, but anyway, a lot of cars are getting smaller these days. That seems to be where things are going. But 18 feet is what I understood was a garage, but that needs to be verified. Don't hold me on that one. And it looks like behind the garage, going to where the stairwell going upstairs, she has to keep that. There's no, she has to keep that to whatever the specs allow. Chuck would be involved in that. and then but there's a hallway behind it, and perhaps a foot could be taken out of that. Now you got 5 feet right there, but let's just say you don't have 5 feet. Let's just say you get down to 3 feet. You get 3 or 2 feet out of it. Even. Then you have a variance of a foot, or maybe a 2 feet, or a foot and a half.
I just looked at a standard width for a garage is 9 to 10 feet per car.
Wide or deep, Ashley?
Wide.
Well, I'm not talking about width. I'm talking about depth.
Oh, okay.
Well, look that one up, please, Ashley. Are you looking it up right now?
Does it say deep?
I can look it
22
up.
is
Hold on.
a 22
Okay.
is a standard length, but it also, of course, depends. You know, it ranges from 16 to 24 feet. Standard garages.
It says this says 20 to 24. What I just pulled up.
Oh, actually,
Okay.
you go to, let's just say you want 20 rather than 22. You got 2 feet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, 20 to 24. Yeah, but the width 12 to 16.
I'm not talking about the width. I'm talking about the depth.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
but Ashley's correct. The 20 to 24 feet.
I guess my only problem is I usually don't talk about looks or anything, but if you have the porch and the roof sticking out one distance and the other side's a couple of feet less, I think that's almost going to look worse than if they were the same distance. Just, for the neighbors and driving by.
That's a legit concern, Dave. Plus, I like what Bob said, that it's going to look aesthetically pleasing with the gables on both sides, but she can still make that work if we took some feet away from her. I mean, it would still look good, right, Bob?
Boy, you all drive a hard bargain.
Well, I have a question though. What are we accomplishing really though by splitting hairs over 2 feet? I mean, when the porch already extends out into that area, I just feel like that. I mean, either we grant it or we don't. The 2 feet to me is not going to really make a huge impact.
Yeah, that is splitting hairs.
Hey, that's what
David was talking about 3.1, so maybe not.
I think I've changed my mind since then, but yeah, and I agree with Bob that street could use some more money influx to the houses on the street. All right, so what's your latest? So right now we're at 5 feet or no further than the roof, or the two motions, the first motion and the second. Is that correct?
I'll second that. I originally was a second, but
I just want to make sure we have it correct. So you made a motion to approve the variance of 5 feet not to exceed the distance of the existing porch and only for the width of the garage. So that makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Length or width?
Well, I guess the overhang would have to exceed the width of the garage, wouldn't it?
Well, no, I mean, as far as your car's parking in side by side, you're talking about the width of the garage. Long way, you're talking about a length.
I think both, because if we grant a 5 foot variance, they could bring the whole house out 5 feet. So we need to have to say it's just for the garage only, that 5 foot extension. Does that make sense?
Not for a room above the garage coming in that distance, right?
Well, that's included in the garage, the bonus room above it. But I'm saying you can't take like the master bedroom, and if we just said 5 feet, they could bring the master bedroom out as well.
Basically like it's drawn.
Yeah, it would have to be just like it's drawn, the 5 foot variance for the garage area only.
Yeah.
Okay, that's on the table then. All in favor of the approval for the variance, 5 feet, not to exceed the existing porch? I guess when you vote, just say your name.
Yes.
Bob is yes. No one else?
Ashley, yes.
Ashley, yes. I'll go ahead and vote for it too. So it's 3 approves and any more? Okay, all against?
Well, you've already got it, so.
Oh, I still need your vote, Doug.
Yeah. I just,
That's all right.
I thought that I'm still confused about the structure above the garage coming out the same distance. I think it's gonna come all the way out to the end. And I think that's more imposing. And that would be the only reason that I would decline it. I thought it was just a garage only, it would never go out any more than that. That would be one thing.
Well, that's part of the motion now, isn't it? It's garage only plus that, whatever the roof line is.
Well, I understood when we had the applicant here that was gonna come out, the motion was gonna come out to the end. And so now we're talking about well, that was my previous understanding. And, so I'm gonna decline.
Okay, Karen?
God. I vote yes, just for the garage,
Okay,
but only because I'm considering the value to the neighborhood.
okay. All right, let me make sure I have the variance correct. The variance of 5 feet not to exceed existing roof line over the porch, and it pertains to the garage only. Does that sound right, Bob?
Yep.
Anything else that I missed there? Okay, so it's 4 vote to approve, 1 against. So the motion carries for a variance of 5 feet not to exceed the existing roof line, and it pertains to the garage area only.
That sounds good.
Okay, that motion carries. Old business. Carrie bring up something, didn't you?
David.
Say again, Dave?
You wanted to bring up some old business?
No, I'm just going to ask Chuck for an update on the Palisade side setback issue. How's that going, Chuck?
Actually, as covered up as I am, I'm way behind on pretty much everything. And I have been working on drafting a letter to the owner, but to give you guys, I don't know if it went to everybody or not, or just Dave, but this particular, you're talking about 209 North Palisades?
Exactly.
Okay.
You sent them a notice of violation, right? How many days do they have?
So, well, let me back up a little bit on what's happened on this.
Okay.
This guy was doing a huge, $150,000 renovation on the house. And as he's going along, we periodically, show up to do inspections and all. And at one point we show up and he's got this porch off the side that goes pretty much to the property line. And at that point I said, you can't do that. And, he was saying, well, can you get a variance? And I said, not very likely because you're so close to the other house. And so as it turns out, this property has, it falls under the small lot of record. And so I was able to calculate the distance of from the 15 feet, which was pretty much at the side of the house. And it went down to like 9.3 or something like that. So it gave him roughly 5 feet that he could add a porch over the side with the small lot of record. So everything was torn down, and then he rebuilt the 5 foot, overhang over the porch that came off the side. Well, that was done before we completed it. Then everything else was finished and all the other issues were addressed. So then at that point, everything was fine. Well, since that time, and that was back in like October of last year, and now all of a sudden, I drive by one day and it's back out there again. So, now I've got to address it again. And of course, like I say, I'm just covered up in, permits and all the phone calls and emails and everything every day. And I just don't get a whole lot of time to work on property maintenance, but I try. And so I had drafted a letter, but I hadn't actually mailed it. And, I apologize for that, but that's just because I just don't have enough hours in the day. So, I mean, it's being addressed, and I'm not gonna let it ride because I've actually addressed this once before. So,
Well, that's good enough for me, Chuck.
I mean, I don't want him doing it again, and I've already addressed it once.
Yeah.
And he went and did it again. So,
It sounds like you're on it though.
well, I'm trying, but it's like, it's just, there's only so many hours in the day and there's only one of me.
Oh, there's two of you now.
That's what I understood.
Nobody
Really?
like Chuck there, right? Is Sam and Stephanie still around? Did she log off?
No, sir. She left right after she was put back in the waiting room.
Okay, I guess we'll get the paperwork done and sign it this week or next
Okay.
week sometime, and make sure she knows about the specifics of the variance, the roof line and the garage only area. Is anybody else?
This
Is
is
anybody else?
Charlie.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Hey, just a question. When you grant a variance, is that supposed to be recorded with the deed or, I mean, Bob had mentioned at the outset, if they had gotten a variance before, and I was just thinking and curious, if the BZA grants a variance on a piece of property, is that recorded with the deed or something so you can find it? Maybe that's a question for Chanel.
That's a question. Let me ask Garrett. Garrett, are you on?
Yeah, not typically. It's typically just held on the files with the municipality. So it would be on Chuck to keep these files.
And I've done, pretty much what I can since I've been here, which is right at 10 years now. And one of the things that to kind of bring you up to speed, Charlie, is that GIS actually has a layer. It's not one that you pull up when you bring it up, but it's one you can add as far as, clicking on something that actually puts cases on properties. So basically if you click on it and you can pull up that layer, then, it should tell you that there was a variance or something to that effect. And when it happened or something like that, basically a case and a case number is assigned to it or whatever. So, that's something that has been talked about, but never followed through because, like I say, we just don't have the manpower.
Well, there was BZA going back a number of years, and
There is.
Bob has got a good point, and I would venture to say that record's there somewhere.
Well, and there may be, but like I say, we're talking about digging through boxes and things like that, and
I know that,
and they're not going to be in order of an address or anything like that. So
yeah,
it's very time consuming to do those kind of things.
yeah.
I would imagine a variance runs with the land. I mean, suppose this lady decides to sell her, home to her, I think her son or son-in-law. And I would imagine the variance would go with it when she sold it. So it seems like somebody would want to add that variance to their deed or whatever they file in the Register of Deeds office in Signal Mountain. Yeah, I don't, that's up to the homeowner.
They turned around and sold it within a couple months.
It just seems like,
Well, it follows the property, not the owner, as you're saying.
Correct.
right. So it just seems like somebody would include it with whatever's on file in the Register of Deeds office, but it doesn't sound like that's, it's certainly not Signal Mountain's responsibility to do that, but I didn't know if that was a regular practice where you filed these decisions. Sounds like it's not.
Be a better way to a good way to keep up with it, but we could look into that.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Any other business before we sign off for the night? No? Okay, meeting's adjourned then.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you all. Have a
thanks,
good
Sam.
night.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
That's okay. Thank you for showing.